Good morning and welcome to GMTV on Sunday the 31st of December, New Year's Eve. In a moment, the Sunday Review, and at 7 o'clock, the Sunday programme, when we'll be talking live to Emma Nicholson MP about her defection from the Tory party. But first, today's top story. Britain is this morning in the grip of lottery fever, with next week's rollover jackpot expected to top a record-breaking £33 million. Lottery organisers Camelot say they expect a rush for tickets for the first draw of the new year, as people hope to win the millions up for grabs. John Ayres has this report.
The balls came up, the numbers went down, and the chances of anyone at all picking up last night's previous record rollover of £22.8 million disappeared, along with the dreams of millions of ticket holders. Undeterred, though, it seems that most will be up for another flutter next week, and they'll be laying out even more money.
Yes, I'll be doing about 12.
Yes, I think I'll be doing about 10, 15, well, yeah, no, about 10, I reckon.
It depends if it's a big one, then I'll have £5.
Next week it's 33...
£10 then.
Is it going over? Is it going over the top? Oh, no, I'll spend £4 next week then.
Such talk, of course, is a real winner with the Department of National Heritage, who distributes the lottery cash to good causes, and of course to the lottery organisers, Camelot.
The prospect of enormous jackpot will undoubtedly bring out large amounts of clients, which of course is great news for the good causes.
Despite the good causes, some church leaders have already called the amounts involved obscene. On the other hand, even if you did pick up first prize next week, you'd still only be the 289th richest person in Britain.
Of course, you've got more chance on winning on one of these, or even being hit by lightning twice, than you have of getting next week's winning numbers. All the same, the dream goes on.
And just in case you think you might have had a minor dream last night, here's the numbers from last night's draw. John Ayres, GMTV News.
The Tories' political crisis is deepening this morning, with speculation that more MPs are set to follow Emma Nicholson's example to leave the Conservatives. Miss Nicholson has made fresh attacks on John Major in today's newspapers, and the Liberal Democrat MP has branded some of her former Tory colleagues as racist. Gary Robertson has this report.
John Major will be waking up this morning to some very gloomy breakfast reading. Emma Nicholson claims former Tory chairman Lord Tebbit objected to her recruitment drive to encourage blacks and Asians into the party. She's also scathing of the strong-arm tactics of Tory whips during the vote on the Nolan report into MPs' earnings. As her attack on Mr Major gathers pace, there's speculation that 2 more MPs might follow her across the floor of the House. The rumours have been denied by Miss Nicholson's former backbench colleagues.
The Conservative Party is a broad church. There is room for everybody, and so nobody that I know of feels frozen out to have to go to disastrous parties like the Liberal Democrats or the Labour Party.
In his New Year's speech, John Major remains upbeat, calling for his party and the government to remain one nation Conservatives. But the bookies are already slashing the odds of an early election.
They've been pretty well bumping along the bottom of their support for the entire year. So in a sense, one feels there's only one way to go. On the other hand, they're leaving it very late to make a start for getting there.
With Mr Major's overall Commons majority cut to 3, the Ulster Unionists could now hold the upper hand. But their price for propping up the government could be high. It's likely they'll demand concessions from Mr Major over the Northern Ireland peace process. Gary Robertson, GMTV News.
4 people have been arrested following an investigation into a reported multi-million-pound fraud in the National Health Service. Officers from Scotland Yard's Company Fraud Squad are carrying out their inquiries with the help of the Audit Commission. It's claimed those suspected of fraud worked for the NHS in England and Wales. All 4 suspects have been released on police bail. A Sunday newspaper is this morning offering a £10,000 reward for information about the killer of Céline Figard. The offer comes as police fear the 19-year-old French student could have been the victim of a serial killer. Detectives say there are signs that Céline was kept prisoner for several days before being strangled. She was last seen alive on December the 19th, accepting a lift from a ginger-haired lorry driver at Chieveley service station in Berkshire. Detectives are expected to release further details about her death later today. Police are urging revellers to stay away from the traditional New Year celebrations in Trafalgar Square tonight. They say the midnight cocktail of alcohol, plummeting temperatures and the danger of being crushed could spell misery for thousands of partygoers. But all around the country, preparations are underway to welcome in 1996, as Aileen Taylor reports.
In Edinburgh, 250,000 people are expected to line the streets, where there'll be live bands and a carnival. And to deal with the inevitable mishaps, medical staff are setting up emergency treatment points around the city.
Well, I think with the weather being as it is, we're going to get a lot of hypothermia. People are going to get very cold standing around, particularly drinking alcohol, and it causes you to vasodilate and temperature to drop, and you don't notice it.
Preparations are in place in London too, but police are urging people to stay away from the traditional revelry in Trafalgar Square. They say it will be crowded and uncomfortable, but deny there being killjoys.
We all want you to have a nice time, but what we're saying is it's really not the best place to be. There's nothing happening in Trafalgar Square, it's just a huge crowd of people. Everybody's being buffeted and banged about. You stand the chance of losing your money or losing your jewellery or your handbag because it's such an intense crowd. So please have a super time, but do it nearer home.
But whatever the police say and whatever the weather, the square is almost certain to be packed by the time the bells ring at midnight. Aileen Taylor, GMTV News.
Another Coronation Street star is preparing to leave the series, according to reports this morning. Chloe Newsome, who plays Vicky MacDonald in the long-running soap, is set to leave in the spring, according to the People newspaper. No one from Granada Television, which makes Coronation Street, has been available for comment. The weather decimated much of the sporting programme yesterday. 3 Premiership games fell to the cold, including Newcastle's match against West Ham. The postponement allowed Manchester United to close the gap at the top to 4 points. Brett Spencer reports.
Andy Cole's third goal in as many games set United on the path to a 2-1 win over Queen's Park Rangers. Ryan Giggs got the second, set up by United's French debutant William Prunier. QPR's consolation came in a bizarre manner, Daniel Dicchio taking advantage of a ball gifted to him by United keeper Peter Schmeichel. Liverpool are third, 10 points behind leaders Newcastle. Steve McManaman equalised twice as they came from behind against Chelsea in a 2-2 draw at Stamford Bridge. England striker Alan Shearer became the first player to score 100 goals in the Premiership as Blackburn beat Spurs 2-1 to end their unbeaten away record. The 8th minute penalty from Stuart Pearce was enough to give Nottingham Forest 3 points against Middlesbrough at the City Ground. Wimbledon have answered the critics that wrote them off, following their 2-1 win over Chelsea on Boxing Day, with a 3-1 success over 5th place Arsenal at Highbury. And it's getting worse for Bolton at the bottom. Beaten 2-1 by fellow strugglers Coventry, they're now 6 points adrift going into the new year. Brett Spencer, GMTV News.
And staying with football, Gordon Jury scored 4 goals as Rangers beat Hibernian 7-0 at Ibrox. Paul Gascoigne also found the net as the champions stretched their lead at the top to 8 points. All the other matches in the Scottish Premier were postponed. Rangers' next game is the Old Firm derby against Celtic on Wednesday. In cricket, England and South Africa are set for a showdown in Cape Town on Tuesday after the 4th test ended in a draw in Port Elizabeth. England set a target of 328, reached 189 for 3 with Mike Atherton blaming the pitch for their slow scoring rate. Well, that's it from the news desk. Time now to have a look at the weather with Emma Jesson.
Hello, good morning. Well, yesterday's freezing rain caused immense havoc on the roads right the way across the country, but that seems to have mostly gone now. There is still a danger of lying snow and ice, though, throughout the Midlands and East Anglia, with milder air introducing some fog maybe as well. So that's the nasty bits out the way. Let's take a look at the overall picture. On the satellite, you can see the fronts which brought the rain, sleet and snow moving northwards overnight. And milder air in the southwest is making it feel less chilly down there, and it's trying to edge its way up the country. But what's happening is the milder air is just sliding over the top of the colder air. So for most of us, it looks like being rather a nippy end to the year. This morning then, cloudy through Northern Ireland, Northern England, the Midlands and the southeast there. Any precipitation should be of rain, but sleet or snow is likely over higher ground. Brighter spots include northern Scotland and southwestern England and also South Wales a bit later on. With the afternoon comes thicker cloud for Scotland, giving rain and also snow in places over higher ground. Still cloudy and damp in the northeast and Northern Ireland, though. The Midlands will stay cloudy too, but will become dry, and over in the southeast and East Anglia, still a bit drizzly. Best in the southwest then today at 11 Celsius, but parts of central England won't struggle above 2. That's it then from me for now. Here's the summary. After the break, part 1 of the Sunday Review.
A little light reading for the flight, but for one of the world's most famous detectives, it's a busman's holiday.
Well, well, seems you can't even fly on an aeroplane now without somebody getting murdered.
Agatha Christie's Death in the Clouds.
I'm afraid she's dead.
There's not far to look for all the suspects.
It's a wasp sting. People do die of wasp stings.
Or more likely, something more exotic. Murder Mystery, tonight at 8 on ITV. Agatha Christie's Poirot.
I do hope you'll join me for my new series on GMTV, Jane Asher's Family Favourites.
A mouth-watering start to the new year on January the 8th.
Good morning from Wendy and myself. Welcome to a very special edition of the Sunday Review. Coming up in the next hour, we'll revisit just a few of our favourite guests who joined us this year. And then later in the programme, we also have a special New Year's message from Dr. George Carey, the Archbishop of Canterbury. Well, let's begin by saying goodbye to 1995 with some of those who've shared with us their matter of faith. After spending 5 years of your life sealed away from the outside world, it's hard to imagine how anyone could survive. It's now been 4 years since Terry Waite was released from his imprisonment and harsh conditions at the mercy of his Beirut captors. In October, we had the opportunity to meet Terry Waite. In this very frank interview, he explains how this imprisonment changed him.
When I was in captivity, I said to myself, if ever I get out, and I was never sure that I would, what would I like to do with the remainder of my life? And there were 4 things that I was able to list quite clearly. One was to make more time for reading, not just to read, but to actually make more time for reading. 2 was to try and write. 3 was to speak occasionally in public, to lecture occasionally. And 4 was to get on with what I've always tried to do in humanitarian activities, one thing and another, like with overseas development or with prison work or victim support, and those various things that I've always done. And the underlying to that was, if at all possible, to try and support myself. I did not want to go back into the employ of anybody else after having been so constrained for years. I thought that's the last thing I want now. I really do want my own freedom.
Is that your reason for leaving the church?
Oh, yes. And, well, partly. The other reason is that I used to work as an assistant to Robert Runcie, who, when I came out, of course, retired. And that's a personal appointment. My job was held open, but I didn't want to continue. And that is the reason. That's the principal reason. So.
What about your family? We've mentioned, you know, it must have been so difficult for them and for you, because they obviously hadn't experienced what you'd experienced either. How do you get back with people you've loved?
Well, someone said, when you come out of an experience like that, take it as though you're coming up from the seabed. If you come up from the seabed too quickly, you get the bends. If you come up at your own pace, you'll be all right. And I'm fortunate in having... Francis and I have been married for 31 years, I think. And in any marriage, you go through ups and downs and strains and tensions. But what I hadn't completely realized when I was taken captive is that when I was taken captive, my whole family were taken captive with me in a different way. And Frances, of course, always cuts herself off from the press. She never gives interviews, she keeps quiet, and she did that deliberately because our children were going through education and she wanted them to have an opportunity to go through as normal kids, not as the children of a hostage, you know, and she did that. What has happened is, because we got good advice, and my wife has a great fund of common sense, more than I have, and is stronger than me in many ways, I think we've been able to grow up strongly individually and strongly collectively. We're not in each other's pockets. We each have our own lives as well as a communal and collective life. But again, I think we've been so fortunate to turn an experience of suffering into something that's creative and not destructive. And for that, I'm grateful.
And what of your faith as well? Has the experience changed that?
Again, I have never believed that faith is an insurance policy. I never believe at all that it protects anybody from the normal ups and downs of life. That isn't faith.
But that wasn't it's not a normal up and down.
Well, no, but I mean, no, but I don't think it protects you from danger or from difficulty. What I think it does is this, and what I'm now going to say may sound a bit pompous, but it's what I said in captivity at a time when I really had to be very, very assertive about my own identity because I was afraid of losing it, afraid of going mad. And I said at that time to myself, in the face of my captors, you can probably break my body, and you've tried, you know, by beatings and other things. You have, I think, the power to bend my mind, to send me into madness. But my soul is not yours to possess. In other words, I was able to hold on to the fact that there was a part of me that no matter what happened could not be taken. And that enabled me to maintain hope. And I think the great thing for anybody going through illness, sickness, misery, loneliness, unemployment, whatever it may be, even as a hostage, is somehow, somewhere within you to be able to maintain hope. And if you can do that, you can survive.
A really extraordinary man who honestly affected everyone that worked on the programme that day. Well, on to somebody else. Being a page 3 darling and a pop singer, Sam Fox rode on a crest of a wave for many years. But this was not to last. Eventually, she felt the need to search for something more substantial in her life. In March, Sam joined us to talk about the inspiration she found from renewing her Christian faith, a faith challenged by constant criticism of her topless modelling days.
I used to go to a Roman Catholic church, and it would be the same mass every week. There's nothing wrong with that, but I needed to hear some positive things.
Being cynical.
Because I was feeling very, very down at the time.
And it's picked you up?
Yeah.
It helped?
Yeah.
But being cynical, somebody might say, well, you know, you only turned back to religion because you're on a downer.
Well, I mean, when your mum's really ill, and that's all you've got left in life, that is a shock to the system. And if that encourages me to go to church, I think that's great.
Have you had any criticism from Christians, if you like, who think that perhaps you and your image and your page 3 days aren't something that go hand in hand?
Yeah, there's been a few, but when I performed at Greenbelt, I did a press conference, and it's probably the most nerve-wracking experience of my life. Obviously, I was asked all sorts of things. How could you pose topless? Have you had sex now? I mean, are you still having sex now? And things like that. All these really personal questions, and these were all Christians. And I was like, what? I thought it would be a nice little interview, and I'd just talk about my faith, and that would be it. So I just said a few funny things like, well, Eve wasn't born with a bra on, was she? And if God didn't want me to be... I've been such a success in my career, and if he chose, basically, when I was born, he knew what I was going to do, and I've done it really well, and if it was wrong at any time, I'm sure it would have stopped.
So you don't actually think that it was wrong in the eyes of God?
No, not the way that I approached it, I don't think. I think the way I did approach my career in the page 3 days was classy compared to a lot of girls, and there's a thin line and you just don't cross it. And I've never felt really bad about it, no, and I still don't regret it to this day.
Do you ever regret the fact that those years, those heady days at the top that you mentioned, that you did sort of forget it then? Or did you really forget it completely then?
It didn't really come as strong. It was never really as strong as it is now. Because religion was at school it was, well, you must believe this and you must do that and you mustn't do that. As you get older, you kind of develop your own kind of faith. And I've got my own personal relationship with God. I do believe he exists for definite now, because I just know that the last couple of years, my life, like I kind of went to bed every night and I didn't have a sense of peace anymore, and I'd be worrying, and worrying is a sin, I found out. I can't be worrying about it anymore. I can't be worrying. I've just got to live for today and just live in the truth and be happy.
And you are?
I'm really happy. I'm not saying I was never happy before, but when sometimes it's unfortunate there has to be a catastrophe like a bad illness in a family for you to find God again, but what's wrong with that? You know, all I can say now is to encourage people that it's worked for me, and it's never too late and you're never too old to believe.
Sentiment shared by quite a number of guests this year, including Nigel Havers. Well, he can turn his hand to the most trying of performances, but this year he accepted a role which was to challenge him beyond any other. He became an ambassador for the International Red Cross and travelled throughout war-torn regions of Bosnia and here in Rwanda, seeing for himself the devastation and the despair. On his return from Rwanda, he joined us in June, shocked but inspired by what he saw.
The images will never leave me. And in a way I'm glad about that, because I'll do anything I can to help people like that again.
Are you religious?
Well, funnily enough, I am. My father wasn't at all. And when I was a young boy, he used to tell me that when you die, that was the end, rather like a blowing out a match. But I was lucky enough to go to a wonderful prep school, which was run by two brothers and a sister, and they really were quite religious. So I went to church every Sunday and things, and I do have quite a strong feeling that there is a God and there is an afterlife, and that one should behave in a Christian way on this planet, and it sort of instinctively comes from inside me. So I suppose to answer that, I am religious. And when I was making Chariots of Fire, I always maintain it's a religious film, because the sort of crux of the story is that this man refused to run on a Sunday. And because of that, the whole film filters, everything about the film filters Christianity about it, because the part I played, I gave my race to him, because I thought it'd be great to see him run, and I thought he could win. That was a Christian act, you know. So because of someone's faith in the core of the film, everything around it had some religious undertone, which I found fascinating.
And is it that sort of religious feeling inside you that has maybe pushed you into doing these things with the Red Cross?
I think without a doubt, instinctively it happens to me.
It doesn't make you question whether there is a God when you see the suffering that you've seen, especially in those tiny children who don't deserve it.
It does, but you know, there's a sort of extraordinary spiritualism about them. The little children who were in these splints, or who were in a very bad way, had a tremendous aura about them.
It sort of reaffirmed your faith,
yes.
really, rather than doing the
Yes.
opposite. Well, now today we say goodbye to 1 year, welcome in the new. But in September, Rabbi Lionel joined us on the eve of Rosh Hashanah to share with us his thoughts for celebrating the Jewish New Year.
One of the things that I do at this period of the year, Anne, is that I give myself a tea party, and I invite my body, mind and soul to the tea party, and I ask them to talk to each other about what their needs really are. You see, for example, my body and mind plot a holiday. They're going to some nice costa. My mind says, yes, there'll be nice ruins and archaeology. And my body says, yes, there'll be lovely food and all that sort of thing.
What does your soul say?
My soul say, yeah, but, you know, you're starving me. Where do I come into this? Because I'm part of you too. And it's true that unless I have time to pray, and also unless you can help others, that you don't help yourself, because a selfish person is never happy. So, for example, if you are on holiday, always look at the lonely person in the bar and the lounge and make friends a bit, because then you're giving your soul a treat too.
This separation that the Church put between body and soul, do you feel that if they were able to invite them all to a tea party, as indeed you do, that it would maybe attract younger people, many of whom don't seem to really have a great affinity with any kind of church at the moment?
I agree with you entirely. You see, I booked a package holiday some years ago, and at the last minute, and I got landed in Ibiza during the disco season, and they didn't know what to do with an oldie like me who suddenly turned out, so they gave me a whole pile of disco tickets. And word got round the disco that there was some strange minister sitting in the disco, drinking a Diet Cola. And youngsters came up to me, and I found myself doing something between a confessional and a problem clinic. You know, a girl who'd been stood up by her boyfriend, you know, came to me and said she wanted the consolations of religion. What was God saying to her? So I thought about it, and I said, what was God saying to her was get a bit more courage and jolly well go back onto that dance floor, but this time believing rather more in yourself and the Almighty, and rather less in your boyfriend.
Do you think, though, that your child, I was reading some stuff about you now, to me your childhood seemed so sad because it was during the war, evacuation. I'll briefly say you were pushed from sort of family to family and didn't seem to belong anywhere, and really just went to the library because it was the only kind of thing that was the same in every family you went to. Do you think that really sort of lost childhood has influenced the way you are now?
Yes, it has. It could have gone two ways. I could have ended up with a depressive and probably an institution and that sort of thing. On the other hand, if you can use that experience, you learn an awful lot of compassion for lonely people in bed-sitters, and you don't just start playing, you know, the normal ecclesiastic role of happy families. And when you come to big festivals, whether it's New Year or Christmas, everybody goes into families, and often people forget that there are all sorts of people who aren't in that structure. And so those years helped me that way then, but also in the years before in the East End it was a time of tremendous poverty, and also it was a time of the Mosley marches, and I think my father landed in the hospital, my grandfather in jail, and I was carrying buckets of water to throw over people. So it was quite riotous childhood.
Riotous, but those were the early days.
Those were the early days,
when it was fun.
Yeah.
And you rediscovered your childhood now.
Well, yes. The odd thing with me is that when I was young, I was very, very old. And I was terribly serious and terribly heavy and preaching at people, very miserable. But as I got older and became a rabbi, I started to laugh much more. And now I'm 65 and got my old age pension. I really feel young again.
Now you're young.
Yeah, I went...
Well, I should mention this because I'm collecting it here. Kindred Spirits, a year of readings, Lionel Blue and Jonathan Maganet. Is that how you say it?
Jonathan Maganet.
Just come out?
Yeah.
And this is aimed, loads of different readings aimed to cheer you up as well.
That's right. I mean, there's a lovely sentence by St. Teresa of Avila, God preserve us from sullen saints. Lovely, isn't it?
The one I like is if the church was like a pub, you go there more often. But that's
right.
another story. I want to ask you one last thing, because we've only got about a minute left on our chat. And how would you like the world to remember Rabbi Lionel Blue? What would it be? You know, a minute's worth of your epitaph if you could write it.
I think he tried. That's all.
Nothing more than that?
No, I wanted to... my mother died, and I had to think of a tombstone for her. And the word I wanted to put over her tombstone wasn't allowed. I wanted to put El Dorado, because my mother was in love with that, with the show. And she said, what a wonderful place, she said, to send all those clergymen who've fallen, you know, and all the politicians in trouble. Because she said, she's sure the poor dears, you know, need a little holiday. And there was a church there, of course she'd seen it, and it was near Torremolinos, so they could go and have a drink, you see. I thought it was such a charitable thought. I wanted to put El Dorado on the tombstone.
But they wouldn't let you?
No.
Well, listen, it's been lovely talking to you, and I want to say to you, Shana Tova.
And Shana Tova Lach. A very, very happy New Year to you and to all the viewers.
Thank you very much
God
indeed.
bless.
Such a lovely man, really was. Well, the season of Advent got off to a rhythmical start when the Wades sang in the studio. So let's round off part one with both the Wades and Wendy performing Prayer Changes Everything.
Until the time I decided to pray.
people dancing to that. We're going to take a break right now. Do stay with us, because after the news, we see the softer side of Michael Winner, music from Helen Shapiro, and a special message from the Archbishop of Canterbury. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
Welcome, Miss Sharman. What's it?
Bit of a headache. Probably just first day nerves.
Oh, don't worry. We're a very friendly school.
Who's pitched my mum?
What class are you taking?
3C.
You're one of these, then.
You can always trust the strength of Anadin Extra.
Thanks, Audrey. Just a job.
Games teacher. Just had 3C.
Anadin Extra, the little yellow box that's a great big help.
Break away with Anthea Turner as GMTV goes down under to Australia this January in search of blue skies and winter sun. Bask in the warm glow of holiday snaps from around the world with Amanda Reddington. Relax with Leslie Joseph as she goes for a post-Christmas diet and detox under the ever-watchful eye of Superwoman Liz Earle on the beautiful island of St. Lucia.
Liz, could we have a word, please, in private?
Be super fit with GMTV.
Welcome back. Here are today's top stories. Britain is this morning in the grip of lottery fever, with next week's rollover jackpot expected to top a record-breaking £33 million. Lottery organisers Camelot say they expect a rush for tickets for the first draw of the new year, as people hope to win the millions up for grabs. John Ayres has this report.
The balls came up, the numbers went down, and the chances of anyone at all picking up last night's previous record rollover of £22.8 million disappeared, along with the dreams of millions of ticket holders. Undeterred though, it seems that most will be up for another flutter next week, and they'll be laying out even more money.
Yes, I'll be doing about 12.
Yes, I think I'll be doing about 10, 50, well, yeah, no, about 10, I reckon.
It depends. If it's a big one, then I'll have £5.
Next week it's 33...
I'll have £10 then.
She's gone over. Has she gone over the top? Oh, no, I'll spend £4 next week then.
Such talk, of course, is a real winner with the Department of National Heritage, who distributes the lottery cash to good causes, and of course to the lottery organisers, Camelot.
The prospect of enormous jackpot will undoubtedly bring out large amounts of clients, which of course is great news for the good causes.
Despite the good causes, some church leaders have already called the amounts involved obscene. On the other hand, even if you did pick up first prize next week, you'd still only be the 289th richest person in Britain.
Of course, you've got more chance on winning on one of these, or even being hit by lightning twice, than you have of getting next week's winning numbers. All the same, the dream goes on.
And just in case you think you might have had a minor dream last night, here's the numbers from last night's draw. John Ayres, GMTV News.
The Tories' political crisis is deepening this morning, with speculation that more MPs are set to follow Emma Nicholson's example to leave the Conservatives. Miss Nicholson's made fresh attacks on John Major in today's newspapers, and the new Liberal Democrat MP has branded some of her former Tory colleagues as racist. Gary Robertson has this report.
John Major will be waking up this morning to some very gloomy breakfast reading. Emma Nicholson claims former Tory chairman Lord Tebbit objected to her recruitment drive to encourage blacks and Asians into the party. She's also scathing of the strong-arm tactics of Tory whips during the vote on the Nolan report into MPs' earnings. As her attack on Mr Major gathers pace, there's speculation that 2 more MPs might follow her across the floor of the House. The rumours have been denied by Miss Nicholson's former backbench colleagues.
The Conservative Party is a broad church. There is room for everybody. And so nobody that I know of feels frozen out to have to go to disastrous parties like the Liberal Democrats or the Labour Party.
In his New Year's speech, John Major remains upbeat, calling for his party and the government to remain one nation Conservatives. But the bookies are already slashing the odds of an early election.
They've been pretty well bumping along the bottom of their support for the entire year. So in a sense, one feels there's only one way to go. On the other hand, they're leaving it very late to make a start for getting there.
With Mr Major's overall Commons majority cut to 3, the Ulster Unionists could now hold the upper hand. but their price for propping up the government could be high. It's likely they'll demand concessions from Mr Major over the Northern Ireland peace process. Gary Robertson, GMTV News.
4 people have been arrested following an investigation into a reported multi-million-pound fraud in the National Health Service. Officers from Scotland Yard's company fraud squad are carrying out their inquiries with the help of the Audit Commission. It's claimed those suspected of fraud worked for the NHS in England and Wales. All 4 suspects have been released on police bail. Police are urging revellers to stay away from the traditional New Year celebrations in Trafalgar Square tonight. They say the midnight cocktail of alcohol, plummeting temperatures and the danger of being crushed could spell misery for thousands of partygoers. In recent years, more than 120,000 people have converged on the square to welcome in the new year. Another Coronation Street star is preparing to leave the series, according to reports this morning. Chloe Newsome, who plays Vicky MacDonald in the long-running soap, is set to leave in the spring, according to the People newspaper. The weather took its toll on the football programme yesterday, but postponements allowed Manchester United to close the gap at the top of the Premiership. They beat Queen's Park Rangers 2-1. Third place Liverpool held Chelsea to a 2-2 draw at Stamford Bridge, and at the bottom Coventry beat Bolton 2-1. And staying with football, Gordon Jury scored 4 goals as Rangers beat Hibernian 7-0 at Ibrox. Paul Gascoigne also found the net as the champions stretched their lead at the top to 8 points. All the other matches in the Scottish Premier were postponed. Rangers' next game is the Old Firm derby against Celtic on Wednesday. In cricket, England and South Africa are set for a showdown in Cape Town on Tuesday after the 4th test ended in a draw in Port Elizabeth. England set a target of 328, reached 189 for 3, with Mike Atherton blaming the pitch for their slow scoring rate. Well, there'll be more news at 7 o'clock. After the break, it's part 2 of the Sunday Review.
There is a cough medicine in the United Kingdom that more people turn to for relief than any other remedy. It offers a range of medicines that deliver immediate action and deep down penetrating relief from all kinds of cough. It has a clinically proven formula, and it's been tried and trusted by families for generation after generation. What's it called? Benylin. Benylin, medicine for coughs.
A little light reading for the flight, but for one of the world's most famous detectives, it's a busman's holiday.
Well, well, seems you can't even fly on an aeroplane now without somebody getting murdered.
Agatha Christie's Death in the Clouds.
I'm afraid she's dead.
There's not far to look for all the suspects.
It's a wasp sting. People do die of wasp stings.
Or more likely, something more exotic. Murder Mystery, tonight at 8 on ITV. Agatha Christie's Poirot.
Welcome back. In just a few minutes we have a message for New Year from the Archbishop of Canterbury. First though, let's continue our look back at the wide-ranging matter of faiths in 1995. Well, he is renowned as a darling of the showbiz world and for his outspoken comments on, well, just about everything really. Earlier this year we found out just what made Michael Winner tick. Here in July he talks of his Judaism and inner beliefs.
That basically it is wrong to, as it were, poo-poo your upbringing and the faith you were given. I don't go to synagogue. I haven't been to synagogue for probably 30, 40 years. But that doesn't mean that I don't believe in the basic tenet of the Jewish religion, which is that the Lord our God, the Lord is one. There is one God. He was not a human being. He's some mystical force that is theoretically governing us all. And like I think most people, I question from time to time whether that's true. Because when you see the terrible things that happen in the world, you say, well, how can there be a God if he permits this? Equally, when anything very bad happens to us, or when we want something very much, we all of us tend, if we're not very religious or not even sure God exists, to suddenly turn to him and say, please do this for me, or please whatever. So I'm a confused in my belief, really.
And what about the afterlife? Do you believe in anything afterwards?
I think this is terribly difficult. I'm hard-pressed to, because I'm a great realist, and I say, well, if it was really there, then somehow or other we'd know about it. Of course, to which a lot of other people say, not only is there afterlife, you come back as a cat, you come back as a mouse, you know. It's a wonderful thought. I'd love to think, with certainty, that this was just a stepping stone to something else, that there was an afterlife. And sometimes I believe it and sometimes I don't. I think, in all honesty, I don't believe it more than I do. I think certainty in any of these matters, in any religious matter, is impossible. And I think it is the absolute certainty that some people have in religious matters that has been the cause of such friction and even many deaths over the history of the world.
A side of Michael Winner that the world doesn't usually see. Well, it was at the tender age of 14 years old that Helen Shapiro found fame and fortune. As she grew up, she needed more than the glitz and glamour of the music world. She searched and she found her faith in God. From that peace and knowing, she has returned to music, but this time to sing of the gospel.
Made a commitment to this person whom I believe lived and died and rose from the dead, still lives there, and is the Messiah of Israel that was promised to Israel, and of course the only way of salvation, as he claims, for the whole world.
And presumably from the way you're speaking, this seems to have changed your life quite a lot.
Well, it's pretty profound, yeah. Yes, it has done. My priorities immediately, as soon as I made this commitment of faith, which is nearly 8 years ago now, changed. My career, for me, went down lower down the charts. And immediately, funnily enough, got boosted, and suddenly it's been blessed and I've never been busier. But it's not so much that, it's just seeing things from a different perspective. It's a deep down knowing and confidence that God is here, he's with me. It's a kind of, it's not religion, it's a relationship and a devotion to the person of God himself, as a personal God through Yeshua, through Jesus, the Messiah.
This deep down knowing and presumably this peace, I know you do seem a very happy person. Yeah. I mean, is it something that do you think anyone can achieve and can find if they want to?
I know it. All they have to do is ask. I always say to people when they say, well, how do I get this? They say, well, first of all, why don't you just, in a quiet moment, ask God to show you his truth, just to show you his truth, and then ask Jesus into your life.
But from what you don't think you have to reach a kind of like a low? I mean, you said you woke up one morning and didn't believe anything and think, oh gosh, I feel so depressed now. I mean, it very often seems that people reach a rock bottom beforehand.
Very often that happens, because very often that's the only time they'll actually start to think about things other than material things or their immediate problems. They might actually start to think, well, something more. So yes, sometimes people have to be brought to that point. I mean, it wasn't like a heavily low point for me. And the guy in this book that I read, he was going along fine. The reason he started to search was because his daughter became a believer in Jesus, and he set out to prove her wrong and ended up becoming a believer himself. It's, with different people, it's different ways.
And through you, have you influenced other people around you, any of your family?
Yes, indeed. I go out and I, well, apart from, yes, of course, family. My mother became a believer and my husband. But I actually go out and I talk about more or less what I'm talking to you about, maybe open it out a little more, and I sing songs about God, and people do get touched, and they start to rethink their lives very often, and very often their lives are changed.
Have all the songs that you sing now and the way your career is going, is it all based on this?
No, I still, oh gosh, I still do my jazz concerts with Humphrey Littleton and other people, and still do my pop concerts and other things that I do, pantos, you know. But I do a large amount of the gospel work, including albums. I've got my third gospel album out now. So it does form a fairly large part of my output, but no, I have to go out there and be gainfully employed, you know.
And can I ask you a kind of personal question, really? But I mean, do you talk to God? Because we've had people sitting here and have great conversations. You know, I'm just sitting on the bus and I say, help me with this, or
I was sitting talking to him just now when you were doing your news bits, actually. Oh, yeah, I talk to God all the time, and very often he talks back. That sounds like really weird, doesn't it? Not in a direct voice sort of way, but in different ways. I know that my prayers are answered. It's like I said, it's a relationship, you see.
How do you know your prayers are answered? I mean, is it a sort of...
Very often through circumstances, but very often I just know his presence. And I just know that feeling of peace in here that comes. Not that I'm saying it's an easy walk or an easy life, it's not. But just the knowing he's there with me through the bad stuff, the difficult times, is like, it's chalk and cheese.
And just very briefly, is it important for you to go to a place of worship?
Yeah, I go to a Messianic fellowship, which is a Jewish, that's Jews and Gentiles together worshipping, usually on a Friday night, Shabbat, the Sabbath, worshipping God in a Hebraic form, in a Hebraic context with Hebraic songs, in English and in Hebrew. Worshipping God in that way. I mean, you don't have to, if you become a believer in Jesus, you don't necessarily have to become a Methodist or an Anglican or a this or a that. Being Jewish, this is how I like to express my faith.
And so here she is again with Search Me and Know Me.
Close me in behind and before me. You shield me with your mighty hand. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too much for me to understand. Where can I go to flee from your spirit and from your presence? Where can I hide? Behold, up in heaven, you're there beside me. In the depths of the darkness, you're by my side. And if I rise on the wings of the morning or settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me, for your right hand is holding me.
Great song. In just a moment we have a New Year's message from the Archbishop of Canterbury. First though, I'd like to take you back to August when Cardinal Basil Hume, head of the Catholic Church in Britain, took time out to join us in the studio.
I think, I would always distinguish between going to church, being a church goer, which of course I believe is important, naturally, but the distinction between that and being a religious person. There are many people who, in fact, are quite religious, and they don't, in fact, go to church. It is true that it is through the church that we learn the truth about God, and that we also, it is through the church that we learn how to praise God and how to worship God. So going to church and being a member of the church community is very important. But there's a distinction to be made between being a churchgoer and being a religious person.
So you can be a religious person just inside yourself by being nice and being kind, and you don't necessarily need to take it a step further?
No, there are people who don't believe in God at all, and they can be very kind and very good and very nice. I mean, let's forget that. But my conviction is that if God isn't part of your life, then there's something missing. And when I asked these fundamental questions about what is the ultimate purpose of my life, or when I ask the question, what happens to me after death, I'm asking religious questions. And because you don't ask yourself the question, doesn't mean to say the question goes away. But people don't bother about the question, don't turn their minds to the question, because all kinds of other things crowd into their lives. But it's an important question. Why am I here? What is my purpose?
Last week, the Archbishop of Canterbury spoke of his reflections on this year and his very own matter of faith. Today, we continue his message for the festive season as he shares with us his hopes for the future.
Well, I look forward to the new year with a sense of expectancy. We hope that peace will come to Bosnia, finally. We hope that peace will come to many parts of the world where strife tears us apart, Northern Ireland and so on. So I look forward and hoping that the Christian Church will make its own contribution to the establishment of God's peace. I think as I look ahead to 1996, it is to focus on the Turnbull Commission in the Church of England. We must actually have a structure that serves the Church well, but actually my message is that we must carry on doing the job. Worship Sunday by Sunday in our many, many thousands of schools to help children to grow in the Christian faith. There's no special thing that I want to point to. I said, let's do the job we have been doing, but let's be a little more effective at doing it. Let's be a little more confident in it, much more hopeful, remembering that the message of Christmas is that God is with us. His presence is with us. So we don't have to throw up our hands in horror and retreat in confusion. We look back on Christmas, and at the very heart of that is peace which comes to us through Jesus Christ. Let's hope and pray that we'll have a peaceful and prosperous new year.
Well, as we draw the Sunday Review to a close for 1995, do remember that your letters are always welcome. If you have any comments or ideas, especially about matter of faith, then do send them to us at our regular address. That's the Sunday Review, GMTV, London SE1 9TT. That's the Sunday Review, GMTV, London SE1 9TT. Well, that's all we've got time for on the Sunday Review, and we hope you've enjoyed this special look back at the year. We'll be back again next week with a rundown of the news in the first week of 1996. Stay with us though, because after the break, Sue Saville will be here with the Sunday programme. We shall leave you with Tabitha Whatling, Choir Girl of the Year, singing Psalm 8, How Great Is Your Name. But from Wendy and myself, all that's left to say is that we hope you have a very happy new year, and we look forward to seeing you in 1996. Bye-bye.
High on your throne above the angels. I do hope you'll join me for my new series on GMTV, Jane Asher's Family Favourites.
A mouth-watering start to the new year on January the 8th.
Has breakfast come to this? You want to feel good about what they eat. They want something fun. So give them Kellogg's Rice Krispies. Made with single grains of rice, not too sweet. And best of all, kids love it. Kellogg's Rice Krispies, breakfast without the showdown.
This is a Christmas appeal from the NSPCC to ask if you can give £15 now to help save a child's life. Every year in this country, thousands of children are cruelly abused in their own homes. Babies left alone for days without food. Toddlers beaten and bruised. Helpless victims of violence. Young girls and boys shamelessly assaulted. And tragically, it's estimated that every week, one child under 5 dies following abuse or neglect. The children shown here are those that make headline news. But for every child you read about in the papers, there are countless more in need of our protection. This Christmas, can you spare £15 to help save a child's life? Your £15 will help us counsel a withdrawn child. Your £15 will help our work with children and parents. And your £15 can help us continue to be there for a child at risk. So please, give the best Christmas gift of all and call 0800 80 20 20 now. That's 0800 80 20 20. We're waiting for your call.
Breakaway with Anthea Turner as GMTV goes down under to Australia this January in search of blue skies and winter sun. Bask in the warm glow of holiday snaps from around the world with Amanda Reddington. Relax with Leslie Joseph as she goes for a post-Christmas diet and detox under the ever-watchful eye of Superwoman Liz Earle on the beautiful island of St. Lucia.
Liz, could we have a word, please, in private?
Be super fit with GMTV.
Good morning and welcome to the Sunday programme. I'm Alastair Stewart. On the programme this morning we take a look back at the year 1995. But before that, here's an update on this morning's national and international news with Sue Saville.
Thank you. Good morning. Today's top story. Britain is this morning in the grip of lottery fever, with next week's rollover jackpot expected to top a record-breaking £33 million. Lottery organisers Camelot say they expect a rush for tickets for the first draw of the new year, as people hope to win the millions up for grabs. John Ayres has this report.
The balls came up, the numbers went down, and the chances of anyone at all picking up last night's previous record rollover of £22.8 million disappeared, along with the dreams of millions of ticket holders. Undeterred though, it seems that most will be up for another flutter next week, and they'll be laying out even more money.
Yes, I'll be doing about 12. Yes, I think I'll be doing about 10, 50. Well, yeah, no, about 10, I reckon.
It depends if it's a big one, then I'll have £5.
Next week it's 33.
I'll have £10 then.
She's gone over the top. Oh, no, I'll spend £4 next week then.
Such talk, of course, is a real winner with the Department of National Heritage, who distributes the lottery cash to good causes, and of course to the lottery organisers Camelot.
The prospect of enormous jackpot will undoubtedly bring out large amounts of clients, which of course is great news for the good causes.
Despite the good causes, some church leaders have already called the amounts involved obscene. On the other hand, even if you did pick up first prize next week, you'd still only be the 289th richest person in Britain.
Of course, you've got more chance on winning on one of these, or even being hit by lightning twice, than you have of getting next week's winning numbers. All the same, the dream goes on.
And just in case you think you might have had a minor dream last night, here's the numbers from last night's draw. John Ayres, GMTV News.
The Tories' political crisis is deepening this morning, with speculation that more MPs are set to follow Emma Nicholson's example to leave the Conservatives. Miss Nicholson has made fresh attacks on John Major in today's newspapers, and the new Liberal Democrat MP has branded some of her former Tory colleagues as racist. Gary Robertson has this report.
John Major will be waking up this morning to some very gloomy breakfast reading. Emma Nicholson claims former Tory chairman Lord Tebbit objected to her recruitment drive to encourage blacks and Asians into the party. She's also scathing of the strong-arm tactics of Tory whips during the vote on the Nolan report into MPs' earnings. As her attack on Mr Major gathers pace, there's speculation that 2 more MPs might follow her across the floor of the House. The rumours have been denied by Miss Nicholson's former backbench colleagues.
The Conservative Party is a broad church. There is room for everybody. And so nobody that I know of feels frozen out to have to go to disastrous parties like the Liberal Democrats or the Labour Party.
In his New Year's speech, John Major remains upbeat, calling for his party and the government to remain one nation Conservatives. But the bookies are already slashing the odds of an early election.
They've been pretty well bumping along the bottom of their support for the entire year. So in a sense, one feels there's only one way to go. On the other hand, they're leaving it very late to make a start for getting there.
With Mr Major's overall Commons majority cut to 3, the Ulster Unionists could now hold the upper hand, but their price for propping up the government could be high. It's likely they'll demand concessions from Mr Major over the Northern Ireland peace process. Gary Robertson, GMTV News.
And Emma Nicholson will be appearing live on the Sunday programme within the next half hour. 4 people have been arrested following an investigation into a reported multi-million-pound fraud in the National Health Service. Officers from Scotland Yard's company fraud squad are carrying out their inquiries with the help of the Audit Commission. It's claimed those suspected of fraud work for the NHS in England and Wales. All 4 suspects have been released on police bail. Revellers are being urged to stay away from the traditional New Year celebrations in Trafalgar Square tonight. Police say the midnight cocktail of alcohol, plummeting temperatures and the danger of being crushed could spell misery for thousands of partygoers. But all around the country, preparations are underway to welcome in 1996. As Aileen Taylor reports.
In Edinburgh, 250,000 people are expected to line the streets, where there'll be live bands and a carnival. And to deal with the inevitable mishaps, medical staff are setting up emergency treatment points around the city.
Well, I think with the weather being as it is, we're going to get a lot of hypothermia. People are going to get very cold standing around, particularly drinking alcohol, and it causes you to vasodilate and temperature to drop, and you don't notice it.
Preparations are in place in London too, but police are urging people to stay away from the traditional revelry in Trafalgar Square. They say it will be crowded and uncomfortable, but deny there being killjoys.
We all want you to have a nice time, but what we're saying is it's really not the best place to be. There's nothing happening in Trafalgar Square, it's just a huge crowd of people. Everybody's being buffeted and banged about. You stand the chance of losing your money or losing your jewellery or your handbag because it's such an intense crowd. So please have a super time, but do it nearer home.
But whatever the police say and whatever the weather, the square is almost certain to be packed by the time the bells ring at midnight. Aileen Taylor, GMTV News.
More than 1,000 passengers are stranded on board 2 ferries in the Irish Sea in gale force winds. The ships were due to dock at Holyhead Port in Gwynedd yesterday lunchtime. A senior Coast Guard says the passengers are in no danger. Another Coronation Street star is preparing to leave the series, according to reports this morning. Chloe Newsome, who plays Vicky MacDonald in the long-running soap, is set to leave in the spring, according to the People newspaper. The weather took its toll on the football programme yesterday, but postponements allowed Manchester United to close the gap at the top of the Premiership. They beat Queen's Park Rangers 2-1. Third place Liverpool held Chelsea to a 2-2 draw at Stamford Bridge, and at the bottom Coventry beat Bolton 2-1. And staying with football, Gordon Dury scored 4 goals as Rangers beat Hibernian 7-0 at Ibrox. Paul Gascoigne also found the net as the champions stretched their lead at the top to 8 points. All the other matches in the Scottish Premier were postponed. Rangers' next game is the Old Firm derby against Celtic on Wednesday. Time now for a look at today's weather with Emma Jesson.
Hello again. Well, do mind how you go if you're out and about this morning. Most of yesterday's freezing rain has gone now, but there is still some lying snow and ice through the Midlands especially, and East Anglia, with maybe some fog as well. This morning then, cloudy through Northern Ireland, Northern England, the Midlands and the South East. That'll mainly give rain, but sleet or snow is likely over higher ground. Brighter spots include Northern Scotland and Southwestern England, and also South Wales later on. With the afternoon comes thicker cloud for Scotland, giving more rain and snow. The Midlands will stay cloudy too, but will become dry and still drizzly over in the southeast. Best in the southwest then today, around 11 Celsius, that's 52 Fahrenheit, but parts of central England won't struggle above 2 Celsius, that's only 36. That's it from me for now, back to Sue.
Thanks. Well, now it's time for our regular look at the news, views and scandals in the Sunday papers. Joining me to take a look at this morning's stories are Kate Hoey, the Labour MP for Vauxhall, and James Hardy from the Press Association. Good morning, both of you.
Good morning.
Okay, let's start with you. What have you picked out from this morning's papers?
Well, it's difficult to pick anything out other than Emma Nicholson, who, and as she's appearing later, I don't think we probably want to say too much about her, but there is a lot, obviously, about that. Emma certainly knows how to time it right, because her time of leaving and joining the Liberal Democrats has really come at a time when there's very, very little news, and of course it's absolutely through all the papers. I'm interested really in what's going to happen now, because I think the lead story in the Mail on Sunday, more Tories set to defect, is going to be very, very important. Is this going to happen, and if so, when? Because obviously 2 more moving would make a great deal of difference to the government's majority. I must say, I do think she should actually resign and have a by-election. I think it's one of these things where I feel, if you're elected as with one party label, then you should resign.
And what about then Alan Howarth in a similar position?
Well, I said that at the time about Alan Howarth too. I do think, you don't get elected as an individual. You get elected because you've got a party name after you. And I know she's not standing again, and I'm sure she'll explain her reasoning behind this.
I think we'll have plenty to talk about with Emma very soon. What about the stories you're picking out there then, Kate? What have you found?
Well, my second story is really, I wanted to take the very important position that the Unionists are going to have. And the Sunday Telegraph has 2 very interesting articles, one by Jenny McCartney, Men Who Could Deal Fatal Blow. Now, Jenny McCartney is actually the daughter of Bob McCartney, the newly elected independent pro-union member of Parliament, and she's pointing out here really the crucial role that the Ulster Unionists will play in deciding just when the government is going to be brought down. It's interesting that in the fisheries vote last week, or the week before the House lifted, 7 of the 9 Unionists voted with the opposition. So I think that their position is going to become more and more crucial. But I think they're going to be very careful. They're not going to rush into bringing the government down. But at the same time, their relations with the Labour Party are much, much better, whereas 3 or 4 years ago they would have feared a Labour government. Yes. Since Mo Mowlam's taken over in Northern Ireland, the relationship's completely changed.
James, let's bring you in here. What have you picked out from the papers this morning?
Well, just as Kate was saying, you can't avoid the Emma Nicholson story. Wherever you turn, there's pages and pages of it. I think it's... The interesting thing about this is not so much the parliamentary arithmetic and the shrinking government majority as the state of the Tory party, what it says about the state of the Tory party, because in the end, it's going to be that which is probably more telling than anything to the government's ability to survive. If the party is disintegrating around the Prime Minister, he can limp through with a majority down to 1 or a minority with uncontroversial legislation. He can probably rely on the Unionists for some support, or at least not to vote against him, and various of the other smaller parties.
So what have you picked out from the papers here this morning?
The interesting one on the subject of that, I'm intrigued with a story in the Sunday Express, which came up with us yesterday as well, actually, that although Emma Nicholson has resigned, left the party in protest over social policy and Europe policy, John Carlyle, the Tory right-winger who managed or helped manage John Redwood's campaign in the summer, claims that at that time she approached him and talked about supporting this man who is everything but sound on social policy and Europe, in her view. So that's interesting.
We'll have to ask Alastair.
Yes, quite.
Anything, though, getting away from this? Anything
Yeah.
on a lighter note?
Yes, well,
just something quickly.
Just on the Emma Nicholson on a lighter note, was apparently, according to the Sunday Express, within minutes of Emma Nicholson's defection, her photograph at the Oakhampton Tory Club was replaced by a picture of England cricket captain Mike. So,
James, anything that you picked out on a lighter note?
Yes, there's also quite a lot in all the papers about the Princess of Wales and Julia Carling and their Caribbean paradise holidays. It's interesting to note that the two men in Will Carling's life have taken rather different holidays. Julia's apparently on a £95 a night budget break compared to the Princess of Wales' £1,800 a night villa, but they both appear to favour the same sort of red bikini.
Yes, although it's interesting, they haven't actually got an up-to-date picture of Princess Diana, but they have got a very good picture in, again, the Sunday Express, of how Prince William, the future king, is actually spending his holidays in this one of these, which is going to annoy a lot of people, where he's picking up a pheasant that he'd shot yesterday, and blasting pheasants seemed to be his way of spending the weekend.
Right, and James, do you have something on football there to mention?
Well, I think it's an extraordinary story relating to Chris Sutton, who people probably remember as the £5 million striker who went to Blackburn and is now, I think, having trouble getting to their first team. Apparently he earns £12,000 a week, and yet expects his former club, Norwich, who has not played for 18 months, to fork out £1,000 a month for a maintenance bill for what is known in the newspaper business as a love child, which just seems to be a world gone mad.
Well, poor old Norwich are in such a state too, that's not going to help them.
No,
well, thank you both for your selections this morning. As you say, a lot to talk about with Emma Nicholson coming up very shortly. Thank you both very much for coming in and joining us on New Year's Eve, and have a very happy New Year. Well, what will be the date of the next general election? Speculation is rife, but the Prime Minister is known to prefer the spring of 1997. But will he be able to hold on that long? Well, later in this programme, you can see an interview with John Redwood. And this is what he had to say on this subject.
On the domestic side, I think we need another budget. I trust we won't be going to the electorate before 97. Another budget, reducing public expenditure growth a bit more, giving a bit more money back to people, on the back of a year or more of good economic recovery.
Well, however, the defection of Emma Nicholson from the Conservatives to the Liberal Democrats could reduce the government's effective majority to 1 and bring the general election date forward to 1996. Well, Emma Nicholson joins me now to discuss her dramatic decision. Good morning, Emma Nicholson.
Good morning. Thanks for the coffee.
Thank you for coming in so early. Remarkable. How are you feeling about this decision a couple of days on now?
I feel very comfortable with it indeed. I felt extremely unhappy in the Conservative Parliamentary Party for some time past, and I've been struggling on. Maybe if I hadn't been a woman, I would have spoken out earlier. But I didn't, and I kept my unhappinesses more or less to myself. I'm afraid my husband suffered because I did a lot of grumbling at home. And now I've taken the decision. At last I'm in a sort of freedom of air to discuss political matters party and with the Liberal Democrats, and I feel just great about it.
And talking of speaking out, what contact have you had with the Prime Minister on this? What's he said?
I wrote to John Major, and I faxed the letter through to number 10 Downing Street from Paddy Ashdown's office, and he and I both checked together. I asked him and he checked that the fax had actually arrived and had been received properly. Of course we didn't know who saw it, and now of course we gather from the way the Prime Minister reacted, and I'm very sorry to say that he didn't seem to see it at all. He must have picked it all up on the 9 o'clock news. I'm sad about that because I made a very big effort to make sure that he, as well as the three most important political people to me in the Conservative Party, my agent, my chairman and my president from the Conservative Association in Torridge and West Devon, all received the news well in advance of the 9 o'clock transmission.
So with this dramatic decision to leave the Conservative Party, why join the Liberal Democrats? Why not Labour?
I'm not a socialist, and I just couldn't bring it within my heart to join the Socialist Party. But the Liberal Democrat tradition is the inheritor of the libertarian principles that I hold. I believe very, very strongly indeed in the freedom of the individual, allowing the individual to work very hard for their own future with their family and with their community. So I do actually believe a very, very great deal in rolling back the frontiers of the state. Had Margaret Thatcher fulfilled that pledge, I would still be with the Conservative Party. As it is, I'm ashamed to say that more and more and more power has been dragged into Westminster and Whitehall, leeching the local people of their powers. Nowadays, the state owns you almost lock, stock and barrel.
Emma, you've sparked so many headlines this morning, and the papers are certainly touching on the possibility of other MPs being in the wings waiting to defect. Can you firm up on that? Who's waiting in the wings? How many? Who are they?
I can tell you that there are a lot of very unhappy Conservative colleagues. Many of them have already, as it were, voted with their feet. But instead of going across the floor, they've gone off the floor. These are the 50 or so Tory MPs who've said that they're going to leave. I'm not going to say that every one of that is leaving because they want to leave, because they don't want to continue to support the Conservative Party. But I can say from my heart and utterly truthfully that a substantial minority of them fall in that position. And I know of other colleagues, even ministers, who are as unhappy, deeply unhappy with the way the Conservative Party has centralised power and been so extraordinary in this approach to the most important matter of our times politically, which is Europe. Now, unlike Michael Heseltine, I don't betray confidences. Unlike Michael Heseltine and John Carlyle, I don't embroider and elaborate and enlarge past discussions until they become distorted in order to attack somebody. Nor, like McAlpine writing in today's Mail on Sunday, do I utterly make things up. So I'm not going to say what any colleague has said to me. You'll have to ask them to speak for themselves.
You mentioned Michael Heseltine there. You, of course, backed him in his bid for the premiership. How do you feel now about his attacks on you in the papers?
He is an irrelevancy to me now because of the way he has embroidered and elaborated and distorted 3 minor conversations I had with him over the last 15 years. That's a pretty shabby way to behave. So clearly, it's not worth thinking about him again. I'm sad about that. I'd rather him mad him.
You mentioned about the issue of the One Nation Party, that you felt perhaps in some way that the Tories were moving away from this. But under John Major over the last 5 years, haven't they moved more to the left in terms of being a more caring party, a more One Nation party perhaps?
No, the Conservative Party have more or less departed in their hearts and principles as a party from the One Nation Tories that I joined, and so many other older members of Parliament joined too. This is why people are leaving. We just can't stand the bashing of people of different colours and creeds and minorities and single parents. Somebody who just doesn't happen to be a white Anglo-Saxon male Protestant member of Parliament.
Can I ask you very briefly, Emma, very, very quickly, the election coming up, 96 or 97, what are the Tories' chances?
Poor. And so they should be.
Emma Nicholson, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Have a happy new year. And coming up next, Alastair Stewart with the Sunday programme Review of the Year. Stay with us.